thoughts? We're going to talk about disability data now. Actually, the slide is titled Disability Data, and the chart actually didn't come through. There's some charts that this tool will not read. But I have this as a chart for us that we can look at. Okay. All right. A couple more comments. Victor says, I try to give my students tools for life. Yes, that is very, very important. And so the constructivism, what is, how is this applicable to life? What is the meaning of this? How will this affect my life would be very important. And Stephanie says, I keep a folder in my email for pat on the back email. Yeah, good, right. That you can read after a rough day. That's very good. Sometimes we need that. All right. Now we're going to switch gears and talk about those high incidence disabilities under IDEA. This just kind of gives you an idea of some of the prevalence. Specific learning disabilities being very high. Speech and language impairment, next highest, other health impaired. We're not going to talk about autism, but it's up there. Serious emotional disabilities, pretty high. Intellectual disability and developmental delay. So those are all fairly high incidence disabilities. So let's jump right in and talk about learning disability. What I have in the first two bullets are some of the definitions of learning disability, the basic definitions that are pretty well recognized by the feds and by most departments of education. I highlighted a couple of things, though. If you look at the first bullet, you'll see the word language underlined. Language, the use of language is important because language, of course, affects our ability to read. It affects our ability to understand, our ability to think in words especially. We can think in pictures, but we also think a lot in words, in fact, mostly in words. So we speak, we listen to people, so all of those things, writing, all of those things are impacted in a learning disability. You can also have a learning disability in the area of math, the inability to do math calculations or understand math problems. So, but most learning disabilities will be impact the area of language or will be language involved. So keep language in mind. The areas of qualification are listed there in the second bullet. You have to rule out that vision or hearing are causing the disability, so you rule out sensory issues. You have to rule out that it's an emotional issue or caused by other things, environment, things like that, or culture or things like that. So you have to rule all those out. So that's kind of the definition of a learning disability. Learning disabilities, several different causes. It can be environmental, can be genetic, can be neurological. Most often it's not just a learning disability, but there's another disability with it. Oftentimes comorbid or happens a lot with ADHD. You'll see a child who has ADD or ADHD and a learning disability. There really isn't a cure for a true learning disability, but what we do is in school, those are all strategies that we teach them or things that we do. We usually teach a lot of strategies and compensation skills. Those are things that we have to address. A lot of times with learning disability, memory is impacted and organizational skills are impacted. Those are the two big areas. Language, of course, is across all of the areas, and usually there's a language issue that goes along with a learning disability. So those are all things that we do to try to address the learning disability. If you want to know more about learning disabilities, the National Center for Learning Disabilities is one good area that you can go to find out more information. Second on the list is other health impaired. And again, there's a definition at the top. These are health-related issues, but they have to be what are called chronic. These are things that are over time, and they really impact your health. And the term strength, vitality and alertness are included in the definition because they have to have some impact on that. And then the second bullet lists some of the very common health conditions you will see under other health impaired, ADHD being probably the most common. So it's very common to see students who are ADHD being diagnosed as other health impaired. Unless they have the learning disability to go along with it, then of course they can be diagnosed in that area. The interesting thing, if you look at the picture I have on here, this is age 7. This is a student who has ADHD and a student who does not. This is their brain development. This video on YouTube, you might want to jot this down because this is a really neat video, and I wish I could embed it right here on the slide, but I can't do that, unfortunately, not with this tool. If you go out on YouTube and watch this, it shows you how the brain develops in an ADHD child versus a child who has a healthy brain, and it shows you that basically the ADHD child's brain matures, but it's very delayed. But it's a very interesting simulation. So I just took a snapshot from it at age 7, but it goes on up in the ages. So it's a very interesting graphic if you're interested in that kind of thing. Of course, other health impaired comes from a lot of different things. If you have a disorder, it may be something that you inherited from your parents, maybe something that happened to you at birth, it may be something that you acquired, lots of different reasons for why you might have it. The treatment for other health impaired is usually going to involve medical folks, nursing staff. Important takeaways from that is there are usually going to be some medications. You need to be aware of, what your medication policy are at your school and how that's handled. And there may be missed time from school. If these children are chronically ill, they will miss a lot of school. So you need to be aware of that and have plans for how you handle that and understand if they are going to be out of school for a while, what your school's homebound policies are, because it may be that they will need a homebound service. So, those are all things you need to consider. I have some questions here in the chat. Stephanie says, does the video show what the brain development looks like in a medicated versus non-medicated? No, it doesn't. It does not show that. It's just a regular developing brain versus an ADHD brain. Yeah, the medicated brain, there are some functional MRI images out there that you can see the effects of medication versus non-medication, and there is an effect of medication, I will be honest with you. But again, medication isn't something that we can really say to a parent, your child really needs to be on medication. We unfortunately cannot have those kinds of discussions. Hopefully the parent is working with a pediatrician who will pick up on that and work with them. And if we have done a good evaluation at school, a lot of times the psychologist will use something like the Connor scale, which gets at attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and so that will come out, and then at least the parent will have those results that they can take to their doctor. So now that's legitimate, but those discussions, we have to be really careful with that. Yeah, I didn't think you would, Stephanie. But that is interesting, the medication effect. Okay. All right, let's move on. I listed a resource, again, if you want more information. So I try to give you some resources because I know we are moving through the material, and I'm only giving you the tip of the iceberg, but I'm giving you what I think are probably the important points that you need to know about each disability or disorder. The next highest is speech and language disorder, and this is a lot of folks too. This is about 20 to 22%. School-aged students, school-aged students with disabilities who have these types of disorders. And it can be things like what we call articulation, things mispronouncing words. It can be voice issues or things like that, or it can be what we call language issues. Difficulty understanding what is said, or difficulty formulating things like being able to get a complete sentence together and speaking the sentence. So it's not just how you speak, but how your brain works with your mouth to speak. Now, speech and language disorders are important. So if you think back again to the learning disability, we talked about the impact of language. Language impacts attention, it impacts memory, vocabulary, reading skills, all of those things, probably much more. So here again is another disorder that has a high incidence and has language tied into it as an impact. So interesting. Again, some similarities there. That speech and language disorders can impact learning quite a lot as well. How do we treat it, or where does it come from? Well, let's start with that first of all. There can be things, structural issues wrong with your mouth, with your tongue, with your teeth, so that you can have physical issues. Some speech disorders are caused by emotional or anxiety. Some people think stuttering is caused by emotional anxiety issues, and it may be. Language disorders usually are caused by some kind of damage to the brain. It may be that you can diagnose it. A lot of the times you cannot diagnose it. You can't really say exactly where it is. There are some things like if you have a stroke or you have a traumatic brain injury, then they can usually figure out which areas of the brain is damaged, and that will cause a language issue. But a lot of times you can't really figure that out. How we work with speech and language disorders, well, obviously there's therapy. If there's a physical problem, there can be a corrective procedure. And sometimes you can aid the language issue with what we call augmentative communication. If you look at the picture here, I've given you an image of what we call an augmentative communication device. This is a Dynavox. And so this device can actually speak for a person. You see lots of little pictures or icons on it, but this device can speak for a person who cannot speak. So this is something similar to what like Stephen Hawking uses for speaking, because Stephen Hawking can no longer speak. Stephen Hawking is the well-renowned physicist who has lots of disabilities. So that's how we can treat it. I see a note here from Stephanie. I asked because I watched Daniel Amen, yes, heard of him, talk about how psychiatrists are the only doctors who treat an organ in the body, the brain, that they don't look at. It was interesting information. Oh, okay, that's a TEDx Talks. Very good, yeah. Interesting. All right, thank you for sharing. I would like to see that. So maybe when this is over, I can roll back the chat room and get your link there, or you can send it to me by email. That'd be great. Okay. Right. Okay. Let's stop. I've got another quick video. Hopefully the sound will be good on this one. Yvette, I'm sorry. But if you want to go ahead and grab this link real quick, it's on YouTube. And it's watch V equals F7, O is in Oscar, L is in Larry, X, capital L, 9, I, U, E, L. Grab it, then maybe you can watch. And again, if you can't see it now, you can see it later. This one is a very interesting video because, we've been talking about issues with language disorders, learning disabilities, and the impact of other health impaired students who usually have other disabilities like may have other disabilities like a learning disability, especially if you have ADHD. Oh, okay, you may have seen it in Reading Foundations. Spelling, organization, behavior. So all of these things are brought out in this video. So just watch this video and tell me what your takeaway point is. So hang on, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and bring up this video. I thought it was really neat. All right, what do you think? That was interesting, wasn't it? What's your takeaway from that? You know, being that we've been talking about all kinds of disabilities, and in particular those high incidence folks have high incidence disabilities, do you think? And I'm sorry if this is something that you did see before. uh, did not know it was used in reading foundations as well. It's a good video though. Yeah. Yeah. I thought it's pretty excellent too. Okay. You shouldn't count out students that just need extra push and help. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And one of your students may have dyslexia. Yeah. Good. Yeah. I thought it was interesting what Tom Cruise said about how he could read and get down to the bottom of the page and then not know what he had read. He didn't know about what he had read. Um, yeah, they have disabilities that can overcome them. Yes. I also thought it was interesting that General Patton could not functionally read or write. That is very interesting. He was, and you know, Thomas Edison, he's too stupid to learn. That was quite shocking. Yeah, most students do need motivation. They do need a little push. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, what we may perceive as lack of effort may actually be a learning disability or a hidden disability, or that it can also mean that the student learns a different way. You know, we were talking about multiple intelligences and how we like to learn, and sometimes we like to learn in different ways. So do our students. So I think sometimes, you know, we have to be the innovators to try different things, to not give up on them, to figure out how they're learning. So, yeah, and Stephanie says it's inspirational how successful these people are or were despite their deficits. Yeah, think of Winston Churchill. You know, he failed and he kept taking the same classes over and over, and then he's the Prime Minister of Great Britain. He was very successful. Yeah. So you can be successful given the right conditions and right teachers, and people who don't give up on you, and people who, yeah, who realize, yes, that you learn differently. Very good. All right. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. It looks like that we did get some good out of it, even though it's been shown a little bit. Yeah, I like your statement, Quinn. We should meet students where they are and see where they're most comfortable and then build on that, then challenge them. I do like the challenge piece because I do feel like sometimes people want to either feel sorry for exceptional students or think that because they're exceptional, there's only so much that they can do, but that's not true, as we know. So, okay, another comment from Marsha Rika. Think students have to use different strategies to help them, yes, learn on their level. Absolutely. And sometimes it's up to us to figure out what the strategies are because they don't know, or they may be using the wrong strategies. So, all right, we're going to move on because we need to finish up here so we can get you guys ready for tomorrow. It's Friday. Yay. All right. Behavioral emotional disability is another one of the high incidence ones, and this is one that, you know, again, I'm sure some of you either deal with directly or you have a student or two that you deal with that have these particular issues. But this is the definition. If you look in the definition, you'll see inappropriate behaviors, you'll see unhappiness, depression, you'll see fears, physical symptoms, being unable to relate to others. You can't learn and you don't have a learning disability, you don't have ADHD, there's nothing else wrong with you. There's something going on. And I picked this picture because this fellow looks very sad. And a lot of our behavioral students who have these disabilities look this way. So that's kind of the definition of this disorder. Now, where does it come from? It can be genetic. If you have a disorder like depression, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia, there is a high rate of what we call heritability if you have a parent who has that, or you know, a very close relative. There is a high level of inheritability for those disorders. Doesn't mean you will have it, but if you do, then, and you have a first-line relative that has it, there you are. You have it, but of course it can be treated. Sometimes kids differ in their temperament, but a lot of environmental factors come into play with these disorders. If you look at that list of environmental factors, I'm sure you can see some of the students that you work with who have some of those issues, probably more than one. So when you have all of those things going on, all of those things add up. Treatment, therapy obviously helps. Mental health helps. I'm sure our schools don't have that or don't have enough of it. and it's hard to come by in some states, I'll just be honest. Medications help. If we have social skills programs in place, things like positive behavioral support, all of those things help. But also if you can have things at home for them, if you have any type of group homes or any type of structure for them, appropriate role models, you know, these are things that these students need. So all of those things help. And Stephanie says high expectations, so does Yvette. Yes, enough that they can see themselves achieving. Absolutely. Okay. I do have a quick video there. What I would suggest we do is let's look at the last couple slides. I only have a few, and then we'll flip back to the video. Intellectual disability. These are students who have what we used to call in the old days, and I'll say in the old days before we stopped the word retardation. It would be called retardation, but we now call it intellectual disability. And these are students who may have Down syndrome or other brain deficits. Lack of oxygen to the brain at birth usually causes an intellectual deficit. They'll also have adaptive behavior delays. They'll be behind in communication skills and social skills, daily living skills, and of course academic delays. All of that will affect their ability to reason and things of that sort. Doesn't mean they can't be productive citizens, as you saw in that picture. A lot of students with Down syndromes do grow up to lead lives, live in group homes, and are employable persons. So genetics come into play in that disorder. There are some genetics. Environmental issues can be come into play, and then oxygen deprivation, those types of things. Early intervention and good academic instruction and good transition are what help these students. And let's see. Stephanie said, mostly students with mild ID have difficulty setting future goals or seeing themselves succeeding. Oh, but they can. Okay. Yeah, every day you will go to the next grade, you'll make it. It seems they have lost hope. Oh, that's sad. They need to keep their hope up. Developmental delay. These are young children. This is preschool, what is called birth to 3, IDEA Part C, ages 3 to 9, and those are the delays that they have to have, delays in one or more of those areas. Of course, there are lots of issues that can happen, birth issues or environmental issues to cause a delay. And treatment, certainly therapies, but also good enrichment preschool experiences. Medication I put as a question mark. Unfortunately, I find that a lot of preschool children are coming to school being medicated. I question a lot of medication at a young age, but that's just the way it's done. So, or the line of thinking that we have right now. So, those are all of the disability areas. Let's look at this video real quick on emotional and behavioral disabilities. This is called Supporting Students with Emotional and Behavioral Disabilities, and it goes through some information but also some common strategies for working with these students. So let's look at this real quickly. I thought it was it's kind of a little bit inspiring, so thought you might like it. And this will be the last one, so I'll do this one real quick, and then I'm going to let you go. Hopefully this will make your evening.
Sun, I am the rain, and you are the sun.
And it was ending. Hold on. For some reason, it started at the end. Here we go. Now you get the full video. Maybe. Hello, we'd like the full video, please. It's a very nicely done. It is not playing. Hooey. Let's try again. Here we go.
I can't remember what happened yesterday. Sweet dreams will crumble and hopes can slip away. If we are the question, my answer for today is that I am the rain, you are the sun. I am the rain, you are the sun. I woke up this morning and left your kiss behind. There is a promise that will not fade with time. When you see a rainbow beneath a painted sky, then you know I am the rain, you are the sun. I am the rain, you are the sun. Do you remember that long ago, 1st June? And it was the season when our flowers were in bloom. So if there's a reason why I still love you, don't you know I am the rain, you are the sun. I am the rain, you are the sun. I am the rain, you are the sun. I am the rain, and you are the sun.
Okay. What was your takeaway from that? It was about 3 minutes long. Yes. But I had to play the whole song. I really like the song. Or it basically, we're the sun, folks, to a lot of these students. They're the rain, and we're the sun. So go cast some sun on some of our students. Bringing back the presentation. Yes, we need to be the sun at all times. Thank you, Victor. Yes. Keep that good, positive attitude. I like some of the things that they mentioned. These students do have issues with taking responsibility for their actions, but we can help them with that. We do have to hold them accountable, but we can work with them towards that. And it mentions some things that we can do, like setting limits and boundaries, being fair, recognizing the good in them, establishing behavior contracts with them, working with them to help set goals, help them set some personal goals. That helps them take that personal responsibility. Yeah. Stephanie says, the difficulty she has is attendance. They need to be in school for us to be the sun. Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Um, and these students are a challenge. I will agree with you, but please don't give up on them. Of course, I know that you guys don't give up on anybody. You're the great ones. All right. We are done for the evening. Here are the resources that I used. I encourage you to go to mNET. We have a module on understanding exceptionality, so if you need more information, that's one source. I have sources listed on all of the other slides that we saw. And all of the videos are listed on this slide, so if you want to see those videos again, they are listed there. And then some of the other major sources of information, like the National Dissemination Center for Children with Disabilities, that's a good source of information. So I hope this has been helpful. Yay! Oh, yeah, you passed. That is so great. All right. If you have specific questions or things that I didn't address that you wanted to know, again, please email me. I'm brenda.scott@knott.net. You can email me, and I'll post your question and answer out on the Coach's Corner, or you can put your question out on the Coach's Corner. I did answer some things from last time on autism out there, so if you haven't been out there recently, go look. Maximiliano, I posted that resource on the pens. Remember we talked about the smart pens that would write and record notes and things like that. So check those out. Thank you so much. I'm glad you guys liked it. Hopefully that last video was uplifting, and we can all go out tomorrow and smile and be the sun for our students. So good night, everybody, and thank you for joining us. You are so welcome. I appreciate everyone coming. Please come again. Our next